Somewhere in the darkness of outer space, starships stalk one another. On one side is the Federation, who sell themselves as the bastion of liberty, light and unity. On the other is the Klingon Empire, imperial, warlike and antagonistic. But neither side are in open war with the other, not yet. This is a Cold War, and it is very cold in space. The analogy with the Cold War is pertinent, as Roddenberry's series was as much a reflection of the world of the 1960s as it was a flight of science fiction fancy. The warlike residents of Kronos were the Soviet Union, whilst the secretive peoples of Romulus had their real-life counterparts in communist China. The Federation was the United States, or indeed NATO. Whenever the Enterprise encountered the Klingons, tensions rose, but actual fighting was avoided if possible. The Enterprise was a heavy cruiser. Across the interstellar chessboard was the Klingon equivalent. Surprisingly, the D7, which was not its official name until very much later, did not make its appearance until late in the original series run. That was in the Enterprise incident, where it appeared not as a Klingon cruiser but as a Romulan ship. Designed by Matt Jeffries, the D7 was not a detailed model, so my model also lacks too much detail. The original audience had to wait until the motion picture before they got the more detailed Katinga, which I'm probably mispronouncing. And there remains the question as to whether the D7 and the Katinga class were meant to be the same class. In universe, the D7 was larger than its successor, but still shorter in overall length when compared to the Enterprise. Some 228 meters in length, it carried a crew of 440. We might suppose the name D7 worked like NATO's class designations for Soviet vessels, like Typhoon and November class. The D7 was a battle cruiser, and its design was shared with the Romulans during the Klingon-Romulan alliance of 2268. Sharing warship designs is not really that unusual, as it happens today. The awkwardness of shared designs between countries becomes obvious when those countries go to war against each other. An example that comes to mind is the British Type 42 Sheffield-class destroyer. Built in the 1970s, the design was shared with Argentina, which by the 1980s had two, the Hercules and the Santissima Trinidad. During the 1982 Falklands War, the British had to paint a thick black line down the sides of their own Type 42s to differentiate them from the enemy's own destroyers. As it was, the two British destroyers sunk. The Sheffield and the Coventry were both lost to enemy action rather than friendly fire. Let's now assess its design. It is distinct in the same way the Enterprise is distinct. It has a command module or pod thrust out from the main body by a long neck. And I can't help but be reminded of the American spacecraft Discovery 1 of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The command module is light bulb shaped and looks rather like it's wearing a hat. That hat is where we find the bridge, and that pod is where we find the torpedo launcher. The neck is very vulnerable to attack, so we might imagine it would be thoroughly reinforced and armoured. The main body of the D7 is wing-like, like the flying wing aircraft of the 50s, and there is a large box-like structure on top and at the back, housing the impulse engines and apparently the shuttle hangar. I would have thought this dangerously close to the impulse engines. The warp nacelles are mounted under the main body and make me think of the catamaran look of the later Miranda class. The FASA Klingon Ship Recognition Manual, which supplemented the role-playing game, gave the class a weight, or is that displacement, of between 89,000 and 135,000 metric tons, as well as 5 shuttlecraft. The manual also offers a few awesome ship names, which are translated as the Bringer of Death, the Bringer of Judgment, the Bringer of Battle, and also the Bringer of Power. We might expect a battlecruiser of the warlike Klingons to be bristling with weapons, but at the time of the D7's development in the real world, the Klingons as characters had yet to become the warrior race we came to know later with the arrival of Mr. Worf and the next gen. The D7 was first introduced as a Romulan vessel in the Enterprise incident, as I've said. As a Klingon battlecruiser though, it appeared in only Elan of Troyes and Day of the Dove. This is surprising of course, especially to those who have only ever seen the remastered series, where extra appearances in The Trouble with Tribbles, Errand of Mercy, Friday's Child and A Private Little War make it seem far more common.